it in some way or not. I don't know. Maybe you can't communicate it. Maybe that's the problem with psychedelic mind states, is that you go into the gleaming eye of the universe, you see the matrix of intelligence that connects all things, it goes into your monkey brain, and then you come back to reality, and all you can do is make stupid guttural grunting noises to try to express the intense love that was washing over you for a few hours. But that's what happens when the only way you can talk about infinity is through the very tip of your feeding tube, which sucks. I love Joshua Tree. If you've never been to the desert, you've got to go out there. It's incredible. And while I was out there, my brain kept comparing Joshua Tree to Orgrimmar in World of Warcraft and to Fallout 3. Now this to me is incredible, and it doesn't bother me at all. I think it's just one of the signs that we are getting closer and closer to what Ray Kurzweil called the technological singularity, where machines wake up and we all get sucked into some alternate dimension where anything that we can think comes into existence via swarms of nanobots being controlled by neurological interfaces that connect our minds to the machine. We're probably a long way from there, but video games are like little sparks of this approaching singularity. In fact, I think video games is the wrong word for it. When you say video games to some people, they roll their eyes. They think you're an asshole or a nerd or a loser or a geek or just some slovenly Mountain Dew drinking pig holed up in some hoarder's apartment wearing adult diapers and vomiting up green shit because your body's shutting down. Those people do exist. In fact, there's probably some of them listening right now to this podcast. And I'm sorry if I hurt your feelings, but you've got to moderate the shit. You can't just become a Jabba the Hutt with your brain attached to a computer while your body rots away. It doesn't do any good for you, and it fucks up your apartment for the next person who comes in. Has got to mop up your greasy faff and oily sweat that's soaked into the carpets. No good. Don't do it. Go to the gym. Go outside. It's pretty good out there. And also, it'll sharpen you up so that you can rise up through the ranks of whatever video game you happen to be playing. One of my favorite video games is Starcraft 2. I've been addicted to this game for quite some time. I actually had to stop playing it because I couldn't moderate it, and so I just had to give up. But the really cool thing about StarCraft 2, as compared to other games that I'm aware of, is that StarCraft 2, you can actually watch StarCraft 2 games on the internet. There's professional StarCraft 2 games that you can watch, and it's hilarious to watch, not only because of the weird language that the commentators use, but also because of the intensity of the gameplay and how fucking incredible people have gotten at playing this game. And they've gotten incredibly good at playing this game because there's a lot of money at stake. StarCraft 2 has in South Korea become the second largest sport, right under baseball. People love it. People are keeling over in internet cafes. Their bodies are shutting down because they can't stop playing the game. And the reason they're trying to get good at it is because if you get good enough at it, you can become a global celebrity. Now, one of these global celebrities who didn't keel over and who actually has become a better person from playing StarCraft 2 is Artosis. Artosis is one of the number one commentators of StarCraft 2. He's actually moved to South Korea where he lives with his beautiful wife and a brand new baby, and he travels all over the world. He's a jet setter. He travels all over the planet and does commentary for professional StarCraft games. Now, I was rambling about StarCraft on the Rogan podcast, and somehow we ended up getting connected, and I invited him to be on this podcast. That was 3 months ago. Wait, 4 months ago. That was before the podcast even existed. I asked him to be on the Lavender Hour, but he was so busy traveling all over the planet that he couldn't do it. But finally, things have settled down for him momentarily, and he was kind enough to give me a little over an hour of his time and break down what it's like to be a super badass celebrity in one of the most exciting and growing communities, at least to me, the most exciting and growing video game communities that exist in the world. As it turns out, he's not just an incredible StarCraft commentator, he also appears to be a genius. He's a really brilliant, sweet, awesome guy, and it was a blast to do the podcast with him. So that's who's the guest. Few announcements. Sign up for the forum. Go to www.duncantrussell.com and sign up for the Duncan Trussell Family Hour forum. Already there are these incredible, mind-bending, evolutionary conversations that are happening there, and I'm so excited about it that I can barely sleep, and I've been breaking out in tears as I walk down the street thinking about the possibility that this community could eventually spawn a time machine which will allow us to travel to any point in the multiverse and experience anything we want. And if not that, then I don't know. Maybe it'll get some pussies wet and let us hump each other for a time before we all get sucked into whatever vortex awaits us at the end of history. So go sign up there, DuncanTrussell.com, the Duncan Trussell Family Hour. And to all of you who have been donating over the last few weeks, God bless you. Thank you for that. And if you like this podcast and you like the Duncan Trussell Family Hour, go on DuncanTrussell.com and send me a couple of bucks. Why not? You do it for NPR. You probably don't do it for NPR, actually. Do people really do that for NPR? I don't know. If you don't want to do that, I understand. I still love you. I'm happy that you're even listening to my raspy, squeaky voice that many people have said sounds like the voice of a lesbian. Sometimes people are confused when they realize that I'm a white guy with a beard. But I'm not a lesbian, but I do love you and everyone out there. And so please continue to tune in, subscribe to this shit, and get out there and get out there and make your life beautiful, because why not? What are you going to do? Rot in your pitiful existence right now? Why are you existing in a tiny, cramped part of the multiverse where you're scared and chained down, where you're in bondage to fear, where some vampire has pushed their heel into your neck and is squashing your creativity and sucking the life out of you as you pretend that everything's okay? Break free, my friends. Get out of the job. Get out of the fucking shitty apartment that you're living in. Get into the world. Transform your body. Become something strong and incredible and powerful, because that'll accelerate your own evolution and it'll help the people around you, right? Hare Krishna. Plus, it will get you laid, and that's a great thing too, last I checked, which has been too long now that I think about it. So, thank you for tuning in. We love you. Now enjoy the Duncan Trussell Family Hour, Episode 2, with the brilliant Artosis. What's it like in Korea these days?
Dude, Korea is like actually the best place. I've traveled a lot, maybe not, as much as I'd like to have yet, but Korea is like, it's a utopia for someone like me. It's got the best internet. You're so free over here, being a foreigner living here, like an expat.
Yeah.
It's like just a wonderful place. It's so close to all these places that everyone wants to go. I fly to like Philippines or Thailand or stuff like that for any vacation time that I ever get. And Seoul is just an amazing city. It's like one of the best cities in the world, no doubt.
Are you a Korean citizen?
No, you can't really become a Korean citizen. I'm just over here on a work visa, working over here. So I live here, technically, but I'm not a Korean or anything like that.
Now, let me just set the stage here, even though I'm probably going to set it again with some kind of prologue or something. But in the history of the human race, you are one of the first people to make a living playing video games, right?
I don't know if I'm one of the first to make a living playing them. To make a
living as far as like being in other words, you're being a commentator and a player. You're compared to all the other things that people have done from the beginning of time. You have this super unique job with no real precedent. You know?
No, certainly. I mean, I was certainly one of the first in that way. You know, being a Starcraft commentator, the very first professional one that made a living off of it was Tasteless, Nick Plott. And then it was me. And, you know, I've been making a living off of being a commentator for like 4 years or so now.
And you're a legend. I mean, you're a celebrity. Everyone
within my microcosm, I certainly am.
Yeah, within that microcosm, but it's that microcosm is, in my mind, right now, it's in a embryonic phase, but based on the exponential increase in processor speeds and the potential that exists for what games are going to become, I would say that God, this is going to piss off a lot of people, but come on, man. Who wants to watch a bunch of fucking meatheads run up and down a green field with a...
No, I'm with you on that, man. That is, I used to be a sports guy before, but StarCraft, especially out here, already is a sport. Like, for instance, StarCraft on TV out here in South Korea, second biggest sport in the country, second most watched sport. The first is baseball, the second is StarCraft. It beats out soccer, it beats out basketball, beats out everything else. It is becoming like that out here because, I mean, it really does kick ass. I know that you play some and watch some. If anyone hasn't checked it out, they need to because it's actually so entertaining.
How would you describe because there's a lot of people who listen to this and who don't know anything about StarCraft. How can you explain the game to them in a real simple way?
Sure. It's like, if you think of chess, right, that's a turn-based strategy game, and you both take turns, and, every piece can do a certain amount. There's a board you're playing on. StarCraft is like that a lot. There's basically a board you play on it. We call it a map. You have pieces. We call those units. The thing is, you can't see everything at once. It's incomplete information, kind of like poker, and you don't take turns. You're both doing stuff as quickly as you can. So if you take the turns out of chess and you give it the incomplete information of poker, that's kind of what StarCraft is.
Right. Yeah. Do people bet on StarCraft in Korea?
Oh, yeah. Well, there was a lot of betting before. In fact, there was a betting scandal in StarCraft 1 that almost destroyed the industry because pro gamers were betting on other pro gamers and stuff, and people were throwing matches for a little bit.
Right.
And, people even went to prison for that. It was crazy. It, almost killed esports out here. But it made it through. And there's definitely still betting around.
Betting on StarCraft.
Yeah, man. There were people throwing matches, like people with $100,000 plus per year salaries, that would bet a ton of money on themselves and throw a match.
Holy shit. This is the future. Huge. We are existing in the future. This is... If you consider... See, I still remember... way back when I lived one summer when my parents were getting divorced, I didn't know that's what was happening. I just thought for some reason they were dropping us off at our aunt's house in the South, and it was like normal. But they were splitting up, so I'd stay at my Aunt Isabel's house, and I can remember the day she brought an Atari into the living room. She bought us a fucking Atari, man. And do you remember? Did you ever have an Atari?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Well, remember that game, what was it, War? Do you remember where there's 70 different crap games you could play that they're all equally horrible? Do you remember that game? Or Breakout? Remember Breakout?
Breakout, certainly, yeah, I remember that one.
Now, think of when I was playing, or Pitfall. Think of Pitfall.
Yeah.
When I was playing Pitfall on the Atari, or was it Pitfall was on the Atari, wasn't it? That was Atari, right?
Yeah.
When I was playing Pitfall on the Atari, it was as though I had opened up the Ark of the Covenant and just shoved my hand into the heart of God. It was so incredible to play. Me and my brother were blown away. Kids, we would get in fist fights over the Atari. My brother has wounds. I have wounds. We would shove kids into rocks over Atari fights because this new technology was so incredible and desirable. But how long has it been since Atari? How long has it been since Atari?
Atari was, we're coming up on almost 30 years since Atari, I think.
So 30 years. It's only been 3 decades. It's only 30 years. And now we've come to this time in history where games have become so engrossing and so challenging that they're becoming like authentic sports. That's mind-blowing. That's incredible.
No, I know, and it really is. I mean, I remember watching, any video games that I could before. I used to like buy those Nintendo Powers and stuff, and everyone would play games at each other's houses, Contra and junk like that. And I mean, there would be like some sort of competition going on, especially when like fighters came out in Mario Kart and stuff like that. But at this point, I mean, with how quick the internet's getting and how good everyone's computers are,
yes,
it's like insane, man. There is, I don't know how much Starcraft is aired every day, but you cannot watch it all. You can't do it.
Right. Well, because I mean, and this is why one of the reasons that I wanted to have you on the podcast is just because a lot of people that I run into, if you just mention video games to some people, especially the ladies, they look at you like you're a bleeding leper. They look at you like you're infected with smallpox and just tried to like hump their baby or something. You know what I'm saying? There's a real stigma against playing video games, which to me is so perplexing because, and I think maybe it's because the video game is the wrong word for it. Yeah, there's been some rebranding of it and stuff, but you're totally right about that. I mean, there's too many people are so ignorant about it. The fact that, the same thing that happens to like StarCraft, for instance. StarCraft is the most complex strategy game ever. It's like so many miles beyond chess at this point. Yes. And
then you have like bowling is a sport, and they don't do the same thing when you mention bowling. And it's like, well, the maximum score you can get, is 300, and like the fact that is considered a sport to some of these people, and they like cringe at video games. It's like just totally ignorant.
It's totally ignorant that bowling is some fucking fat ass rolling a ball down while he's drunk in a bar. That's not a sport. That's like vomiting. That's like some kind of dumb seizure. Fucking bowling. Bowling can kiss my ass, man. I want to fucking bowl. I hate bowling. Whenever anybody invites me to go bowling, I just want to put a gun in my mouth. It's like, don't you hate, because you gotta wear those gross shoes. You gotta like put your feet in old shoes that have been stained and soiled by the fear sweat of like people are gonna have a heart attack in 2 months.
No, I know. I'm not a fan of bowling. I don't hate it maybe as much as you seem to, but it's like, what a limited game that's called a sport, and obviously you don't need to be in the greatest of shape to even play it.
No, you can't.
But it's considered a sport, and these same girls are like, "Oh, you bowl? Okay, I'm not into it, but I'm not gonna cringe and think that you're one of these weird addicted people, that looks at hentai and stuff like that."
Yeah, that's right. But see, that's the thing. Girls don't know about I don't think girls understand about hentai. Girls just hear video game, and and there's something about it that I guess that they consider it to be. I don't know what they think. It's not just girl. The point. This is my perception of what's happening. I feel that right now we are on the verge of being sucked away by a technological tsunami, and that what the singularity is going to look like, or the thing that radically, completely transforms society, is it's going to originate from video games. It's going to originate from people getting better and better and better at replicating reality, at creating false realities that are more entertaining and satisfying than the reality that we're currently living in, to the point where the created realities are going to become indistinguishable from where we are right now. And when that happens, that's when everything gets really weird. And I think we're like 30 years away from a game where you go into the game and you can't remember that you were in the game. You know what I'm saying? Like
absolutely, yeah. I mean, the speed with which stuff is improving is like still going quicker and quicker. It's actually insane. And I mean, eventually we will get there. And what happens when we get there, when it's like Starcraft is suddenly real and I'm on the battlefield, like doing it? Like, do I actually want to like walk down the street and go to a coffee shop and talk to my friends there, or do I want to, be in like whatever universe it is that I'm playing a game in?
Yeah, no, yeah. Do you really want to like spend an evening at a bar with your pals, or do you want to spend the evening fucking blasting goddamn Terrans' faces off and reaching into their chest cavities and chewing on their hearts? What are you gonna pick? Do you want to spend? Let's go get coffee, or why don't we ride our Pegasi up to the top of some blizzard World of Warcraft mountain and have cyber sex? You know what I mean? Like, reality, this is the thing. Like, human beings they're beating God. Like, God made the Atari. That's Earth. Earth is the Atari of the universe right now. We're dealing with this, like, basic shit. We can't fly. We're not telepathic. And these things are all possible through the virtual realities that are being created right now. It's just, at this point, I guess people still think that it's a pastime or a form of entertainment, as opposed to what I think it actually is, which is the very beginning of the creation of a new universe that we're all going to live in. And Artosis, I think you might be the emperor of this universe.
I am the king of the nerds. I'm absolutely going to rule that realm.
What are your rules going to be when you rule that realm?
No cheating, man. That is the first one.
That's a problem with Starcraft, huh? There's a lot of like hacking and stuff that happens with that.
It pops up a little bit. It was much more prevalent in Starcraft 1. With Starcraft 2, it's like all online and all really monitored by Blizzard, so they fix it whenever that happens. So not a big deal, but it still pops up from here and there.
Do you? Go ahead.
Well, if I could just go back for one second, because I was like so interested in what you were saying about when the games become better than reality, like what's going to happen. And I feel like that already happened for some people, and that's part of the reason why video games are looked down on. Because, like, if you think of the people that actually do, like, leave life to the point where they neglect their own health and, just exist only within, like... it happened first with, like, EverQuest way back years and years ago.
Sure, I played.
Yeah, and there were people that, all they did was play that. That was literally it. Like, they were, like, their bodies were dying and they were playing that. And that was, like, looked down upon so much. But even though, they got immersed in the world very well, but it's not as much as what you were just saying. But it's kind of like the first step for these people, that's the level they need to be in there. Now, when it gets up to the point where it's just better than real life, then everyone's going to be in there. But... like, EverQuest, for instance, was better for those people than their real life for whatever reason. I don't know.
Well, yeah.
It's just kind of interesting.
I know why. I know why EverQuest is better than their real life, because real life, for a lot of people, ain't that great. Real life, for a lot of people, is a miserable experience. There's steps that you have to take if you want life in this world to be good. And some of those steps require kind of intense discipline and a lot of hard work and not instantaneous gratification. But with EverQuest and World of Warcraft, they've figured out how to supply the same type of gratification that people get from doing, tasks in the real world that are beneficial.
It's kind of easy.
Your brain gives you this little, how the reward system of the brain, like I think it's called dopamine, and your brain releases dopamine when you do some good thing, so I think video games kind of trick your brain into giving you little hits of dopamine as you're playing. So that's why they're so addictive, But didn't somebody just keel over out there? There was like a picture of a guy in one of these video game cafes who died while playing.
Oh yeah, that happens all the time. I've seen that in the news. Well, I'm not saying like I sit out here and read the newspaper and see it all the time, but that's always so sensationalized, these people, and it is a lot of the time in Korea that it happens because they have these PC bongs that are cheap as hell and they're open all the time. It's like $1 to play for an hour any game in the entire world. And yeah, it's happened a lot where people just like neglect themselves to the point where they eventually die of malnourishment or something like that.
They just starve to death. Their body just shuts down.
Yeah, it definitely happens. I've read the stories about that at least 7-8 times.
I'm telling you, within the next 30 years, there will be graveyards filled with these corpses, filled with people. Because, man, I already know what's going to happen. It's going to be, there's going to be this game that somehow plugs right into your brain so that you can smell and feel the sensations within the game. And in that game, one aspect of the game is when you go into the game, it's going to give you some form of temporary amnesia so you don't even remember that you existed prior to the game. You know what I'm saying?
That would be awesome, man. I would totally play that game. You know, I'd want like some sort of safety precaution that it turns it off at a certain point.
Yeah.
But that sounds like amazing, and of course I think that has to happen at some point. And when that's coming out, man, I have this great business idea. I'm gonna, you know, there's like you can get like a USB foot warmer. I'm gonna get a USB IV drip. Make sure these people don't die. Make $1 million off that. So easy.
That's a great idea, man.
I know, right?
Yeah. It just drips saline into their body so that they can just get as close as you can to the death of the meat body without being wiped out.
USB catheter and stuff. I mean, the sky's the limit with this stuff when those games come out.
Oh, man, there's nothing worse than when you're in the middle of some game and you've got to piss, you know? Seriously contemplate pissing yourself. I've contemplated it.
I know. There's times where I am like so into playing my games, my ladder games on Starcraft. I'll be sitting there and I have to pee, and the game will end. I'll be like, oh, maybe I'll just rush this next game. I think I'll play one more and then pee, and then I play and it goes long, and I'm like, oh my god! And then by the time I get out, I forget that I have to pee, and I start the next one. And somewhere early game, I'm thinking, oh god, I do have to pee so badly, and it goes on, and eventually you just have to get up though.
Yeah, see, this is what's happening is that these games are presenting us with this like reality that's so amazing that the human body is becoming an impediment to the enjoyment of these virtual worlds. And this is like a problem of the new age. This is where we're going to have to actively like balance how much time we get to spend in these virtual paradises with being in the real world. But, to go back to that idea of this game that you go into and you completely forget that it's a game. Like the moment you go in it, you get amnesia. A lot of people, they say that's what this is. Like that's what Earth is.
Oh yeah, I've heard people say stuff like that. It's like really interesting to think of it that way. Like, are you talking about how that's what your whole life is, or like one of the crazier ones where it's like when you go to sleep, that's like when you're really awake?
Well, yeah, it's all kind of versions of the same idea.
Yeah.
But let's break it down. Let's talk about you. Now, let's really imagine the odds, the probability that you would become one of the most famous commentators of StarCraft 2 in the world. A game that, is relatively new, yet you have become a global celebrity in this certain culture. Think of the odds of that. What are the odds of that?
No, I guess that's pretty slim. There's like 3 people like that. So
the odds
3
are
out
like,
of 6 billion plus.
3 out of 6 billion. So the odds are astronomical. There's really no way it could happen, and so that's where you get into the absurdity of your existence, and you really think, and then you start getting into the thing like, wait a minute, I'm the only one who I know experiences reality. I'm the only one who's really experiencing this. Everyone else could just be a projection of this machine. Everyone else could just be some holographic projection, and I've just apparently volunteered to play this bizarre game where I've taken on the identity of a StarCraft 2 commentator on a planet on the verge of the apocalypse. I mean, come on.
It's crazy because, and especially when you add that in, like, of course, there's like all this crazy stuff going on in the world, but in my world where I exist here, even just speaking within Earth, right?
Yeah.
Like, I live in a country that has missiles pointed at it, and
yes.
I'm not from this country, and I'm talking about a video game in a time where lots of countries have like economies that are collapsing. It's absolutely crazy.
Yes, it's ridiculous, and it's so in that way when you start really analyzing your existence, the absurdity of it can almost make you believe that, oh yeah, this is definitely bullshit. Like this is some kind of hologram or something that I've like allowed myself to get inside of and forget my true identity, which is that you're probably, not to freak you out, but you might be that guy who died in the internet cafe having one last hallucination.
Yeah, I guess so. But, like, what's even crazier than that? That I would live in another world with games like this and choose this crazy path I'm on. It's like, what? That is a crazy thing.
Yeah, exactly. It's a crazy life. Because the reason it's so crazy is there's no precedent for it. Like, you can kind of compare yourself, I guess, with like sports commentators and stuff, but it's just such a odd new thing. I think you should be incredibly excited. I have this like just a dream that one day this stuff's gonna, like, when I'm in a hotel, when I'm out on the road, I'm gonna be able to fucking turn on Starcraft 2 games on ESPN. That's the universe I want to be in.
I think that's going to happen, man, within a couple years here, because the views that we get already on these big tournaments are bigger than a ton of the cable TV channels. Like, we get a ton of views on this stuff, so I don't know why it's not on TV yet. I'm sure it will be eventually, but everyone has the internet, so they're like, well, I'd rather sit in my computer and use my computer for other things rather than sit on my couch and watch on TV.
When I was with Joe Rogan, and we were performing. We were in Chicago, and I got like 10 minutes to talk to Dana White, who's the president of the UFC, and I started trying to talk about Starcraft, but I couldn't say it right, and then I'm just like, oh, forget it, because I'm like, man, why don't you like apply the stuff you've learned to these fights to like, bringing Starcraft to that level? But here's the real problem, man. The problem is Starcraft 2 is fucking complicated. It's like people. It's hard to when I like fights in football and I don't know, the basic sports. You can just sit down and watch and kind of understand what's happening. StarCraft 2, it would take. There's a learning curve. I don't know if people can just sit down and enjoy watching it.
Yeah, it's pretty difficult actually to figure out exactly what's going on, and I think that's part of the reason why, like right now, the famous commentators are really famous, because we're like trying to put this into words for people because it is like ridiculously complicated. But I think you don't need to know the game all that deeply, because like anyone can watch baseball, for instance, but there are a ton of intricate, smaller little rules and strategies going on that. Right. It's great if you know that and can see that. It makes it even more beautiful. But just watching it overall maybe is good for some people. For instance, MMA, right? Like, yeah. I don't watch a lot of UFC or anything. Like, I've watched it a few times in the past. And when I first started watching it, I was like, oh, I don't really know. I don't get it. And then, someone told me a little bit about it. And then I was like, oh, okay, I kind of get it now. All right, so, they can be knocked out. The referee can call it. Or it goes a certain number of rounds and there's points for certain things. And then it got better, but still, do I have any idea what's really going on? Like when I listen to you guys talk about it on like Joe Rogan's podcast, I'm like, oh my God, this is so deep. This is actually really fascinating. Yeah. But I don't need to know, as much as Joe Rogan to really enjoy watching it if I like it.
Yeah, right. If you just I was, when I was on the road with him, like, I went and watched him train with one of these, like, professional trainers, and was watching these, and I didn't even realize this, but they have these combinations that they do. So, and it's all based on like, if I like, kick, you're probably going to react in this way, and then if you react in that way, I'll do this, and then if you react to that, then I'll do this, and you've got to like memorize these things and just have it in body memory. So there's no hesitation at all, and that's when you see like. In these fights, when combos work, that's not an accident. That's a combo that somebody planned out and has been training for, months to learn. I didn't know that. So it is deep. It is really, really, really deep. But it's still not as fucking cool as StarCraft 2, man.
Well, I don't think it's as cool either, man. But that's actually really cool. Similar. You know, eventually the things that you do in StarCraft 2, like there will, you know, it's not always those patterns and combos and stuff, but absolutely you get it like in your muscle memory. Like, oh my god, he's making his spawning pool really early and rushing the Zerglings, and then like you just go into the set out routine on how to minimize damage and save yourself.
Right.
And it's very similar like that. Like if you see a medevac dropship coming, then your muscle memory kicks in. You're like, okay, what do? I get my units over there. I move my probes. I check around the map for a counterattack. You know, it's very similar to that in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Well, it's you know, in chess, there's, you know, opening moves, and there's you know, specific strategies, and these are things I tried to learn when I was like wanting to get better at StarCraft 2. I would study these things, and it's just so intense. There's so many variables happening, and you know what you're saying. It's like, yeah, once you learn this stuff, you can go into like certain attack patterns, and but then what's incredible to me is that the deepest part of StarCraft 2 is the micro. That's where you would have a severe advantage, it seems like, is if you got I always know. Well, I pretty much always know I'm going to lose when I play StarCraft 2 because I suck. So anytime I'm playing, I'm going to lose. But I know I'm really doomed. Like if I'm rolling a bunch of banelings at somebody and they start sending out one Zerg at a time to pop them, you know what I mean? They're controlling their units and like with real precision. Then it's like, oh, I'm dead. There's nothing I can do about this because, you know, what do you think? What's more important, macro or micro?
I would say that at the super duper highest level, macro will become more important, but like right now, micro is probably more important.
Right.
The thing is, you have to have it all, and one of the coolest parts of StarCraft, you know, it's like some of these other things. Let me
stop you for 1 second just to explain. Sure. Can you explain macro and micro to everyone? What
that is? Sure. Yeah, I forget that this isn't just StarCraft. Macro is like managing an economy and making a lot of stuff like units and spending your money. Like it's getting a lot of stuff. Whereas micro is using exactly what you have as best you can through controlling it really well. It's like, you know, I'm trying to think of like something in sports that lines up with that. Micro it's like the special, like when you twirl around in basketball or throw the ball behind your back or something. You know, those are micro moves.
Right. Yeah.
It's control based. Like if you have 3 Marines and I have 3 Marines, the person with better micro wins that battle. That's a huge deal.
Yeah, it all comes down to that because and micro is the hardest thing to learn. It's the just like figuring out how to, you know, I don't even know how you would. I don't do micro. I do.
that might be why you're still stuck in bronze.
I'll be in bronze forever. Now here's okay. Hold on, let me stop this. We're gonna cut to a commercial. I just want to save what we've got so far. So we're gonna cut to commercial. What's it called? It's
it's like ladder seasons.
Seasons.
Yeah, we're on like season 6 or something right now, 6 or 7. It's every 2 or 3 months they freeze the ladder, and then you just try to get as high as you can over the course of 2 weeks, and then it resets, and then you just kind of start over again, just see how high you can get.
Right. So that's it. So you start in Bronze League if you're me, and you just stay in Bronze League, and you stay there for years, but you can't get out of it. You just are always there. Theoretically, you're supposed to be getting better, and you'd get into Silver, or you'd get into the higher leagues, but for some reason, I just... And the other weird thing is it'll team me up against people. I once, one of my favorite Starcraft nights was I was like drunk and stoned, and I beat someone, and they were like in a really high, like the gold league.
Oh wow!
And it was so, and they had actually started like my favorite thing about Starcraft, because I guess I'm just I just suck and I'm a troll, I guess. So my favorite thing with Starcraft is when someone starts talking shit to you and you beat them. There's nothing better than that feeling. Because for those of you who don't know, in Starcraft, you can like have these little conversations with people. And sometimes people will start accusing you of not being good at the game while you're beating them. You know what I'm saying? Like you're not beating them in the appropriate way.
Oh, absolutely. I mean... I have been victim of that, and I have done that to people. It's as funny as that sounds. Being like this person up at the top of the community. It happens. Sometimes it's for fun, and sometimes you get really frustrated in a game, and it just kind of comes out.
No, you get mad. It's like the funny thing about playing these games is that you're not emotionally disconnected from it. Your heart will start racing when you're about to win, or when you're getting crushed. I've walked away from this game feeling like ridiculously despondent from being crushed by somebody.
Absolutely. It can put me in a bad mood for sure, and I've been playing for so long that like no single game should matter, but if I have like the right idea in a game and I just can't do it, I'll be so angry at myself, and there'll be like a couple hours afterwards where I'm just not in as good a mood as I should be.
Yeah, it's so strange, and all those things kind of wrap up into this. They're all components that kind of mix together to create the ultimate addiction omelet. Because you've got visually, it's really cool. And it's super fun and entertaining to play, but then you've added this ambition that you can apply to it, where there's some part of you that wants to rise up through the ranks. I didn't even know there was a Grandmaster League. I'm so deep in the Bronze League, they don't even tell me this shit. I didn't even know there. Who's in the How many people are in the Grandmaster League?
There's like 5 different servers for different areas of the world, and each server has 200 people in the Grandmaster League.
What league are you in?
It matters which server I'm on. I'm Korea right now, which is the harder server.
Yes.
I'm just below Grandmaster. If I were to move back to America, then I would be in the Grandmaster League. Yeah,
Korea. That's the other funny thing. Koreans are I've said this before, but Koreans are to StarCraft what black people are to basketball.
Yeah, it's like much more so much more so. Like Koreans have been the best since like 1.5 years after StarCraft 1 came out. This is like back in the year 2000s when they started this, and they never stopped. It's absolutely insane. They're so good.
Did Blizzard, did anyone expect it to take off in Korea like that?
No. They were like, it was way back, and the economy was like trying to recover and stuff when this all happened. It was like this perfect storm of reasons why it happened. Like a lot of these PC cafes opened up that were like really cheap to go to, and StarCraft was the popular game, and just everything in the world lined up for it, and it exploded over here. And ever since then, the Koreans are it's like the hardest working country. It's unbelievable, their work ethic. It's like statistically, Koreans have the longest workday and sleep the least in the entire world out of every single country. And that is applied directly to StarCraft. They play by far the most, and it really shows.
How the fuck do they work the longest hours and play StarCraft? Because I don't understand that.
Well, that's the same thing. Like, some people have StarCraft as their job over here, and the people who have it as their job over here, a lot of them are playing 16 hours a day.
How do you get now? How do you rise up through the ranks? How does that happen?
In Korea?
To become a professional StarCraft player. How does that happen?
Well, you start playing like an unbelievable amount, and you just play all the time. And there's like a lot of content out here, and especially in StarCraft 1 there was, where it's easier to learn it in Korea than anywhere else, but you have to speak Korean, of course, because they have so many good players that are like talking about it with each other, so you make friends, they teach you a little bit more, and then you move up the ranks from them if you have talent and hard work, and then like the next group of friends you make, they're going to teach you some, and eventually you get up to the point where you can start, trying to play in some of the bigger tournaments, and maybe you have like a breakthrough where someone looks at you, someone with power, like a coach or something, and they're like, oh, this guy actually looks pretty good, and they might give you a try then.
And so that's when you get on the teams.
Yeah.
Who are the big coaches out there?
Well, in StarCraft 1, it was like really straightforward. There was like 12 professional teams, or 10, or something like that. I can't really remember now. My brain is all StarCraft 2 now. But in StarCraft 2, there's like 8 real professional teams out here, and it's just whoever runs the team kind of gets to do that. But they listen also to their top players. Like if they have players on the team that practice with this kid that lives with his mom in Seoul somewhere, and they're like, this kid's really good, like we should pick this kid up, he's really good practice for me, then the coach will normally give him a little try.
Oh, that's crazy. So they want to find people that are challenging for them to play.
Oh yeah, because if you're not finding like the best people you can practice with, other people will pass you by. You have to tuck your ego away to be an actual top-level pro gamer, and you want to lose as much as possible. The more losses you put in, the more you're going to learn and improve. So these, like, all the best players, like, practice together, unless they're about to play each other in a tournament.
So the more you lose, the better a StarCraft player you are.
Yeah, that's actually
then I'm
part
a
of the
fucking
struggle.
expert. Why am I in the Bronze League?
Oh, man. I don't know. I'm going to have to look at some of your games and tell you.
Oh, please do. Yeah, man, we should do some kind of, I don't know. I would love for you to watch my terrible games. I haven't played in a while. I've been too busy. I haven't been able to play as much. But how many hours a day would you say you play?
It really matters what my schedule's like, because sometimes, I'm flying out back-to-back and doing a lot of the show that I do out here or something like that. So, like, if I actually have time off in a day, I'll put in 6 hours or 8 hours and practice. And then some of that might be watching some replays or some VODs for tournaments that I didn't cast, or rewatching VODs that I did.
And explain what a VOD is?
That's like a video on demand. It's just like a recorded game, basically, from, a tournament anywhere. Like if I end up casting a big amount of the tournaments that are around the world and whatnot, but
you're a jet setter. I've been talking with Artosis for months now, and he's been so busy. He's always traveling. You're like a jet setter. I
have a lot of frequent flyer miles at this point.
I bet. And you're married, right?
Mm-hmm.
How does your wife deal with you playing StarCraft all the time? Does it bug her at all?
Well, she's good with it. Like when I first started dating her, I like let her know by like maybe date 3 or 4. I'm like, listen, StarCraft 2 isn't out yet. When it is, I will be playing it a real lot, and sometimes it'll put me in a bad mood. I'm sorry, but that is what my career is. It's like I quit, college like 4 or 5 times to practice more in StarCraft 1. This is basically like all I can do is, gaming. That's what I am. So it's basically my job. So either I'm working, and if I'm not working, such as casting an event, I'm playing or watching the game so that I can analyze it better.
And how did your wife respond when you told her that? I guess your girlfriend at the time.
Yeah, she didn't really. I get it. I think she's like, oh, okay, I guess I get that. She's kind of like a WoW player and stuff. Like she's like, oh, I play a lot of games too. I'm like, oh, you don't really get it, But she was all right with it, and then it happened, and she saw it, and I think it was still probably a little bit surprising, but she's fine with it.
Wow.
It's kind of like any other job. If I'm playing 6 or 8 hours in a day, it's
not
people
like
go
any
for that
other
long.
job.
Well, I mean, the hours that I put
You
in.
get to play video games for 8 hours a day with no guilt. Do you realize how incredible that is? If I play video games for like 3 hours, I'm like, oh man, why don't I just start shooting? You know what? I should just start shooting heroin. Why don't I just go and fucking tie off my arm and go sit on the couch and start blasting heroin into my veins? Because heroin created Jimi Hendrix and Jim Morrison. We have yet to see what kind of musicians are going to originate from playing Starcraft 2 all the time. You know, man, it's a beautiful life that you have, and the fact that your wife is cool with it and accepts it is amazing. It's incredible. I mean, you really have created. What do you are you a religious person?
No, I'm an atheist.
So you attribute all this stuff to your own willpower, not some kind of like universal divine and consciousness that was like, I'm gonna let you be in heaven this life, Artosis.
No, I definitely put in, I put in my time to actually get to this point. Like, I started playing StarCraft 1 a little bit after it came out, like the same year, and I basically like never stopped. I just constantly practiced all my time. I was a very competitive person. I used to play sports and stuff, but I like broke my ankle really, really badly the year StarCraft came out, and it just kind of like replaced all my other competition stuff for me. So I just, I put in so much time and effort and sacrifice into the game that, I kept working hard until I got enough breaks that I made a life out of it, basically.
Were you, have you always been an atheist?
I was raised completely without any religion. Like, I was raised just by my mom, and she just never brought it up. Like, I found out who, like, Jesus was through my neighbor and stuff like that. So I just kind of got to, no one ever told me, and then when I learned about it, I was like, oh, really? I don't know. And, that's basically the story of it.
It's fun to think about. It's fun to play around with the concept of Jesus and consider, like, if the internet had existed back then, like, how it would have been impossible for there to be a Jesus.
I can imagine it, right? There's like a picture of him turning water to wine, and they're like LOL photoshopped or something. You know? That's about what it would come down to on the internet.
No, he'd just end up in Vegas, right? He'd be like Chris Angel or something. Like,
maybe, yeah.
You can only have a Jesus like that. Jesus can only exist when there's no wireless, because somehow isn't that weird? How when the more cameras, there seems to be a direct correlation between the amount of cameras around and the. I guess a negative correlation between the number of cameras around and the number of miracles that happen, right? Like, miracles never happen on camera, or aliens, or ghosts. It's really strange, huh?
Yeah, I don't think it's really strange, because I don't really believe in any of that stuff.
Listen, if there's anyone on the planet who should believe in a divine presence in the universe, it's the person who's making a living playing the most awesome video game in the world. You're blessed, man. I don't know. I don't know what God is. I don't know. I don't know. I certainly don't believe in the God of like Mitt Romney and Santorum and that. I don't believe in, like, I call that God Loon. That's the homophobic, crazy God. I don't believe in that God. But I think that there's something. We're clear. I mean, we exist, right? Do you think there's aliens?
Oh, there has to be aliens. Have they been here? I think probably not. But I mean, look how big the universe is, man. Like, how could there possibly not be alien life somewhere? Like, not necessarily carbon based, not anything that necessarily looks like us, but there has to be. There's just I can't believe that there's not somewhere in the universe.
So here's where I go. Here's how I can't be an atheist, and maybe it's just semantics. Like, I suppose to like Christians, they would be like, no, you're an atheist, or they'd say you're an idiot, or I don't know what they call me, but if you believe in aliens and you believe the universe is this kind of is infinite, then you end up in this spectrum of intelligence where we sit somewhere on the spectrum. We don't know where we sit because we're the only life forms that we know of outside of animal life forms and plants, but at the level we're at, we're the only life forms that we know of, so we don't have any reference point. But if you if you think, okay, well then if the universe is infinite and there's aliens, then there's a high likelihood that there's going to be aliens that are smarter than us, that are more advanced than us, right? And so then you begin to follow that spectrum of intelligence, you begin to follow it up, up the ladder, so to speak. So now you're, okay, if there's aliens smarter than us, there's probably aliens smarter than them if it's an infinite universe. And then as that intelligence keeps increasing and increasing and increasing, somewhere up that scale, you start hitting beings that we would consider to be gods, like super omniscient, powerful gods. And so that's why it's hard for me to believe that, to not believe that there's a God, because I think there probably is, just some super intelligent creator alien that can make life and can, look at fucking DNA. Doesn't DNA kind of look like it was created by some alien corporation or something?
No, when you put it like that, I'm not saying that couldn't be the case. I guess what I'm saying is like the current religions on Earth, none of them ring true with me even a little. But the universe is a pretty big place. But one of the things that I don't know if you ever heard about like the pulsating hypersphere. Like I don't know what they call it, but like, for instance, my older brother is like a doctor of mathematics at a university, and he was telling me about how a lot of mathematicians apparently think that the universe is this pulsating hypersphere made of like over 20 dimensions, and we live in the third, but that means that there could be beings in the fourth and the fifth, and like we can't even fathom them because they have, like, we have height, width, and length, so that's like 3 dimensions or whatever, and then like you go into the 4th dimension. Now these people have like something called ana and kata and all that stuff. So like, they're definitely, I would say humans are not the top beings, no doubt about that. But I would also, as far as like organized religion goes, I don't buy any of that.
Oh yeah, organized religion is a bunch of fucking crap. There's this great quote. What's the quote? Who? I think it was Mark Twain. Mark Twain said something like, religion happened when the first con man met the first fool. Because it is. But, if you want a cool perspective on it, I've been reading Joseph Campbell lately, and it kind of, and he's really hard on Christianity. He's more into like Eastern philosophies, but he's really tough on Christianity because Christianity is so ridiculous, and that fundamentalist Christianity, that is, it creates this impossible situation where you have this perfect God that's beyond sin and perfect and can do no harm and created everything, and yet within the creation there exists this being called Satan, which had to have been created by this God. So it's similar to what Mitt Romney says about his fucking, how he's got somebody who invests his money. You know what I'm saying? Like do you know about that?
Oh, is that the one where like they invest their money in something and then it makes like negative campaigns or something?
Well, no, that's the super PAC. No, so Mitt Romney he's just got a shit ton of money, and so what he has a blind trust is what it's called, and basically what that means is he's given all his money to somebody and they invest it and they don't tell him what they're investing it in. And somehow the fact that he's not choosing to make these investments makes him above reproach when people come to him and they're like, you invested in whatever, like Monsanto or cancer causing. He's like, well, I've got a blind trust. I don't know I had nothing to do with it. So it's the same way with God. It's like God, the Christian God's supposed to be this, all-powerful force of good in the universe, yet has somehow created Satan. The Christianity deals with the problem of evil in the universe by creating a Sith Lord or something that was kicked out of heaven. Whereas like some of the other religions, like, Hinduism, there's a Trinity, and part of that Trinity is destructive. It's not all good. Like God, like the idea is like, God isn't all good. The universe is one of like beauty and destruction, and whatever God is some amalgamation of those things.
Yeah. Yeah, it's, I don't know, the whole religion thing, like, I know religious people that are very good friends of mine and stuff, but, they're cool, they're smart or whatever. It's the bad apples, the people that are like, oh, like, gays shouldn't be married. It's like, what? Like, when I even hear that, because, I live in Seoul, right? So I have a limited number of people that speak the same language as me that I'm around, and I surround myself only with like-minded people. So whenever I like hear something like that, like if I'm reading, the New York Times online or something like that, and I hear like, oh my God, like there are people running for president that don't want gay people to be married, it like almost breaks my brain that they get any votes, because I like surround myself only. I would never even be friends with someone that doesn't think gay people should be married, because it's like it's beyond stupid to think that,
Well, yeah, it's evil to think that. It's not.
Yeah, it's like something I don't even take that into consideration. So when I even hear that, I'm like, wait, there are people so backwards minded that they think that? How can that even be? Because I just have like these ultra liberal happy people around me that just want everyone to be happy. We just, hell man, we want to be happy. You guys should be happy too. Everyone should be happy. Let's all work together and be happy. Yeah.
You want to be happy? That's what you want? How can you be happy knowing that a man and another man are laying together as a man and a woman?
Oh, God, I know.
Have you not read Leviticus? Have you not read Deuteronomy? It's fucked up. And here's what's happening. This is what's happening. What's happening is we've got an operating system, a really primitive operating system called Christianity. And the universe has moved on. Time has sped up. We are approaching a singularity right now. We have access to technology that, it could be there. We could invent a time machine pretty soon. But we have nuclear arsenals. We create fire that you can't put out. We've become this super powerful species, a super powerful species, which the sum total is this matrix of information that's being manifested in the form of the internet. And so the idea that someone wants to run this Gaian computer using an operating system that was created by people who thought that the Earth was the center of the fucking universe, that's terrifying, man. It won't work. It won't work.
Yeah.
It's not
going to
fucking work.
Keep evolving our thoughts and stuff. It's like, I don't know why people would want to do that. And like,
yeah, but you got to keep those freaks off the wheel. You got to keep their hands off the wheel. You can't let people who believe gays shouldn't be married have keys to a nuclear arsenal.
No, agreed. I know. These people are just so far from, it's like, I don't know. I can't. It shocks me, because I'm actually normally good at speaking, but I keep like catching myself. I'm like, how do I even explain my thoughts here? It shocks me that there are people that can think that. Like, you can believe in whatever you want, but if you believe like people shouldn't be able to be happy together or something, that's like, there's just no logic in that. It makes no sense. That can't stay around. The human race has to move forward.
It has to move forward, and we're. The problem, the real conundrum is that really smart people want everyone to be happy, and really smart people want to be open-minded to other people's ideas. But at some point, you can't be open-minded to everyone's ideas. At some point, you have to stop being like, well, I understand. You have your own point of view. You think gays shouldn't be married, and I think they should. At some point, you have to go, no, you're a fucking bigot. You're a backwards bigot who is intentionally slowing down the acceleration of the evolution of the species that I belong to, and you don't get to be a politician. You don't get to run for office. You don't get to poison people with these thoughts. You don't get a platform, and no one wants to hear that, because they're like, no, freedom of speech. We're all out. What? Because it's a slippery slope.
Yeah, it is. That's so tricky.
It's so fucking tricky, but it's like, but now it's like, I mean, we wouldn't let a fucking, I don't know, you wouldn't let a gorilla drive you to the airport. You know, you wouldn't let some. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely, yeah.
No matter how open-minded you wanted to be.
It's weird because, you know, like, for instance, in Starcraft, right? In the Starcraft community, people like Starcraft. Overall, they're very liberal-minded people. And I think the vast majority of people from Starcraft who listen to this podcast will be like, yeah, of course, Artosis, you know, gay people should be able to marry. But I know that I'm going to lose a few fans, and they're going to be like, Artosis, man, you know, this is my belief, man. Like, I used to have respect for you, now I don't. And I'll see that on Twitter from at least, you know, one or two people. And it's like, what? Like,
retweet it.
Oh, it's like, and it makes me kind of sad because I'm like, well, you know, you're obviously like a really smart person. You really like StarCraft, and I feel like everyone watches StarCraft is smart because this is like, it's a hard game, man. If you watch and you enjoy it, you are smart. But I feel like those people must be brainwashed in some way if they actually think, you know, this is the easiest one that we keep on going back to is the gay marriage one. But I mean, if you actually think that, I feel like you've been brainwashed in some way, and I'm sad. You know, I want you to continue to watch StarCraft and enjoy it and stuff like that. But like you got to free your mind from this and like move forward with the rest of humanity towards like more people being happy.
Yes, and connected in the way that they want to be connected, and
exactly.
And so you seem to be more empathetic to their point of view than I am, because I don't know, I just get, and your approach.
Well, I think you live in America, so it's going to be harder for you. I think when I lived in America, I was more angry about it too. But at this point, I like so only surround myself with like-minded people. Yeah. Like we're just a bunch of very open-minded. My group of friends and I, we're very open-minded, and we want everyone to be happy. You know, it's this really nice thing that we've got going on over here. So I guess when I hear it, it like breaks my brain a little bit. But I'm like, oh crap, you're brainwashed. Like I hope that you get better, but you know, you have to put up more with this type of thing. You see it more. Like I don't ever watch American news or anything like that. You know, I very rarely read any of this stuff. So I don't want to say I'm like necessarily softer on that point of view. It's just, you know, you're obviously going to be much more frustrated than anyone is going to be, more so than someone who lives in Seoul, South Korea, and, you know, gets a very limited dose of this stuff.
God, that must be nice. Yeah, that's the thing, you know, every day we turn out, I go on the net and look at the news, and there's like, you know, in LA, they're in the process of voting again on whether or not medicinal marijuana dispensaries can exist, and it's like the fact that weed's illegal, that marijuana is illegal here, and the fact that gay marriage is illegal, and it's like the idea of America is such a beautiful idea, and it's this idea of like freedom, where you are free to worship any god you want to worship and live any life that you want to live, and you know, it's all about like explore, you know, it's actual freedom and liberty, which is somehow these ideas have been stolen away by small-minded demons who have somehow managed to gain power and convince people that no, you need someone to take care of you. You need a nanny state to tell you, no, you can't do drugs, you can't marry someone of the same gender. And it's fucking tyranny. It shouldn't happen. But you know what? Can gay people get married in Korea?
You know, I don't know about that. I do know, like, for instance, you mentioned, you know, you're voting again on the marijuana and stuff. That stuff is, like, it's the same as cocaine over here. It's like a class 1 drug. You cannot, there are not drugs over here. There just aren't. South Korea is basically an island. You can only get here through a boat or an airplane, and they keep it pretty tight, man.
That's a shame, because let me tell you, my friend, there is nothing better than eating medicinal marijuana and sitting down for some StarCraft. That shit's the best. It's the best. You will shudder with ecstasy when you're playing. Also, World of Warcraft stoned is just an incredible experience. It's a shame. I can understand.
Well, it's funny because also, you know, out here drinking is big. It's a drinking culture. Yes. And you can drink any time of the day. You can drink outside. You can walk around with a beer. You can walk around with a bottle of whiskey if you want. You can sit in the back seat of a car that's being driven down the highway and get drunk. You know, it doesn't matter. All that doesn't matter, but, you know, They have their laws as far as the, I guess you would term actual drugs, although everyone smokes and drinks.
So it's so fascinating because booze is a deadly drug. It's so bad for you. It's it changes your personality in like negative ways. It's like it makes you kind of retarded. You know?
Yeah. Certainly.
if you ever go out to a bar and you decide not to drink and suddenly you look at how people are talking and you feel
that's the worst. That is the worst, being like the sober guy with everyone that's been drinking. That is so terrible.
It's so they all get kind of suspicious of you too.
Yeah.
Like you're judging them, and you are judging them because they're talking like they just had a stroke. Mm-hmm. So awful. Listen, it's been about an hour. I'm sure you got a lot to do, man. This is really been one of my favorite podcasts of all times. You're brilliant. You're so fucking cool, man.
Oh, thank you. You are too kind. I'm so glad that you brought me on your podcast. Yeah, it's been a blast, man. You're a hilarious guy.
Thanks. And I wanted to how can people find you? Do you have a website? Do you have your own website?
Not really. I mean, I have
yeah.
I would say just check out like my Twitter. I'm at twitter.com/Artosis, and of course my casting partner in crime, as we call each other, hetero nerd life partners. Call me Tasteless on Twitter. People can just check us out there. We link to various things that we're commentating. We read all our tweets and stuff. So if people need help finding out more about Starcraft, we can help them out that way.
Yes, guys, you have to go watch the games. You have to get into this because it is so fun, and there's no way to describe how entertaining a thing it is.
It's a blast.
It's a fucking blast. So I'll put a link. I'll put a link up to Artosis' Twitter, and I'll put a link up to Blizzard where you can buy StarCraft 2 if you don't have it. And man, I hope you'll come back on the show again because I'd love to have you back on. I feel like we're only scratching the surface.
Oh yeah. Oh, believe me, I would love to. And I mean, I also want to see some of your replays, man. We got to go over some of those.
Okay, yeah, let's do that. I think we should. I think we should try to cast one of my games and just.
I think that would be hilarious.
All right, so that's in the future. That's our next project together, my friend. Thank you very much. Have fun in. What time is it in Korea right now?
It's 1:36 p.m.
1:36 p.m. Have an excellent Korean afternoon. We love you, Artosis. Hare Krishna. See you around.
Thanks, man. See ya.
Bye. Thanks for listening, everybody. Now enjoy The Voice by the Holy Sons from their album Lost Decade. Love you. Sign up on the forums. See you later.
Intoxicated tonight. Yes, I'm so lost to think, Lord. I'm so lost to think. Improving me with tools. I contact you. I bring it back to you. I'm thinking for that voice that can't speak. You can't speak. I'll be there for you. Who can't speak? You can't speak. I'll be there for you. Who can't speak? I see you in the scriptures. I see you in the statues. It's like revealing right. Your revenge tonight will be rewarded. For I am your voice. Yes, I am your voice. Oh, don't you kill me in my sleep, oh. Don't you poison my drink, I never wanted to die. I am the voice so malleable, and I reach up to you to say, bring your requests for revenge. If there is a corner of consciousness, maybe I can find those words to just to bring them here to your heart, which I know exists 'cause I know you, and you've always been there for me. something